SleepWalkers, Stephen King's crazy-ass film about the weird cat people. Oh, and I'm not kidding on how crazy this movie is. It's freaking nuts! This is like Stephen King Unleashed. This is what happens when King doesn't take his sensible pills and goes straight into B-movie madness, and I freaking love it. Released in 1992, it revolves around mother and son antagonists Mary and Charles Brady, who are the last survivors of an ancient shape-shifting cat-like vampire species, who in order to survive must feed on human female virgins, where they get their sights set on teenager Tanya Robertson to be their next victim, which leads to a series of gruesome, over-the-top horror shenanigans in this bizarre but memorable chapter in the works of Stephen King. So it's time to grab the corn cob and use it as a weapon. And yes, that actually does happen in the movie. Wow, all I can say is that is one corny death. As we look into 10 things that you didn't know about Stephen King's batshit insane SleepWalkers. Let's check it out. Number 10, SleepWalkers was a Stephen King first. Unlike other Stephen King live-action works, SleepWalkers is not based on any existing material. Nope, not based on any previous book, short story, or magazine article. SleepWalkers is an original screenplay that King had written purely for the purpose of being turned into a movie. King was supposedly inspired by the 1959 instrumental song Sleepwalk by Santo and Johnny. During the 80s and early 90s, turning King stories into movies or miniseries was increasingly becoming popular. And King really didn't like some of these adaptations, with the likes of The Shining, as every Stephen King fan knows, and The Lawnmower Man, which flat out had nothing to do with the short story of the same name. Maybe that's why SleepWalkers is so freaking nuts. Maybe its mischievous, playful humour is King poking fun at the film industry. But regardless, Columbia Pictures came on board to distribute SleepWalkers. Also, SleepWalkers further explores King's fascination with cats, as cats have played parts in his previous works such as Cat's Eye and Pet Sematary. So with King's script ready for filming, as crazy as it was, next they had to find a director. Number 9, original choice of director. When it came to directing, Columbia Pictures had approached British director Rupert Wainwright to helm the movie. Wainwright was mainly known for directing music videos at that time, having directed videos for MC Hammer and Michael Jackson. However, King was not sold on the idea, as Wainwright wanted to make changes to the script. He insisted that the studio hire Mick Garris. Garris had previously directed Critters 2 and Psycho 4, so he knew a thing or two about mixing horror with cheesy laughs, so he was hired. This was actually the start of a working relationship between King and Garris, as Garris would go on to direct live adaptations of other King's works, such as the original Stand miniseries, Quicksilver Highway, The Shining miniseries, Riding the Bullet, Desperation, and Bag of Bones. And to think their collaboration started right here with a cop getting stabbed by a corn cob. Number 8, casting. When it came time to casting the role of Mary, the evil shape-shifting mother in SleepWalkers, Mick Garris originally wanted to cast Julia Roberts in the part, who at the time was a Hollywood A-lister. And naturally she turned it down as she didn't like the subject matter of the movie. So instead, Alice Krige was cast, as Garris liked her performance in the 1981 horror movie Ghost Story. In fact, SleepWalkers is kind of like a who's who with its casting, as there are many famous faces turning up throughout the film, including Hellboy himself, Ron Perlman, Glenn Shaddix, who is best known as Opho from Beetlejuice, and even Mark Hamill went from Skywalker to Sleepwalker, as he has an uncredited cameo as a police sheriff at the start of the movie. Machen Amick played the movie's main lead of Tanya Robertson. Amick is probably more recently known as playing Betty's annoying mum in Riverdale. And what's really weird is Tanya's parents are played by Lynn Ward and Cindy Pickett, both of whom also played Ferris Bueller's parents several years earlier. Strange, huh? Maybe it's because at the time of filming the couple were married in real life. Or maybe Mick Garris is just a huge Ferris Bueller fan. Number 7. Filming location. SleepWalkers was filmed on location in Los Angeles, California, specifically around Franklin Canyon Park, which helped to give the movie its small town, slightly isolated look. Set filming took place at the Columbia Pictures studio lot, also in California in Culver City. SleepWalkers was only one of 3 movies being filmed at the studios at that time. The other 2 movies were Bram Stoker's Dracula and Hook. However, filming was no easy task, as many scenes involved cats. In total, 126 cats were used, and both director Mick Garris and main star Madhum Amick were allergic to cats. Yeah, there could have been an issue here. In fact, Amick kept quiet about her allergies and didn't let it be known that she was allergic to the fluffy felines until filming actually started to take place. But thankfully, the director and the star were able to get beyond their cat allergies and complete the movie. Number 6. The original monster designs would be reused in another Stephen King adaptation. So when we see the shape-shifting cat-like people's true form, it looks like, well, it looks like this, for better or worse. However, this wasn't the true design of their final form. Originally, the monsters that we see at the end of the Tommyknockers miniseries was the original design intended for the shapeshifters in SleepWalkers. However, due to time restraints, special effects designer Tony Gardner couldn't create suits based on those designs, so he had to improvise for a more simplified design, the one that we see in the film. However, when the Tommyknockers series came along the following year, the original designs for SleepWalkers were then recycled and used as the alien creatures for that miniseries. Also, let's talk about the infamous face morph scene. Yeah, that bizarre scene that usually leaves viewers asking WTF. Well, SleepWalkers was one of the first movies to use this face morph effect in a cinematic movie. The effect had become popular at that time, thanks to being used in the Michael Jackson music video Black or White, where we see a variety of faces morphing into each other. So remember, when you watch Tommyknockers and see those monsters at the end, they were originally meant to be the shapeshifters for SleepWalkers. Number 5. Director cameos. So, we've already spoken about some of the cast in SleepWalkers, but what about the other cameos? The cameos from the horror movie directors? Well, I'm gonna let my friend Marcy, who was a big fan of SleepWalkers, talk about this one, so over to you, Marcy.
Thanks, Minty. Super Marcy here from the Super Network. We're talking SleepWalkers. One of the probably most awesome things about this wacky, crazy movie is the fact that it has a whole bunch of really neat cameos. So of course, as you can expect with a lot of different Stephen King adaptations or films, he likes to cameo, and I think maybe in another life he would have loved to have been an actor. So much like Stan Lee, as you'd expect when you watch Marvel, Stephen King does have a cameo. However, he and Mick Garris did bring some friends along. Who did they bring, you might ask? We have cameos from John Landis, Joe Dante, Tobe Hooper, and Clive Barker. This is perhaps the only film where you will see Stephen King and Clive Barker share the screen together, which is really freaking cool. It could have been the most ambitious duo on screen of all time, just saying. But they're really cool, and especially if you haven't seen the film for a while, it always is like a really nice surprise. But they're not the only really cool cameos, because the one, the only, Luke Skywalker and the Joker himself, Mark Hamill, has a very cool cameo at the beginning of the film. And again, if you haven't seen this movie or it's been a while, it's always a really neat surprise. And I think that all these things combined, like with these crazy cameos, it doesn't actually take away from the enjoyment of the film. I think it actually adds to it. So there's been my fact. Back to you, Minty.
Number 4. The music of SleepWalkers. SleepWalkers actually has several memorable songs heard throughout the film. Most famously, it features the 1959 Sleepwalk, which inspired King to write the movie. The song is cool and slick and is also haunting, and it just goes with the otherworldliness of SleepWalkers. The movie also features another classic hit, the 1962 song Do You Love Me by the Contours. SleepWalkers also features the song Boudica by Enya. Yeah, remember Enya, that musical artist your mum used to listen to in the late 80s and early 90s? And no, that's not a sly remark either. Well, her 1987 song made it into the movie because Mick Garris was given a list of songs that could be used by Sony Music, and Boudica is the only one that he felt went with the tone of the movie. And yeah, it does go hand in hand with SleepWalkers, and it's actually quite a powerful song. The movie's score was composed by Nicholas Pike, who previously scored fellow Stephen King related movie The Graveyard Shift, as well as Critters 2 and Chud 2. Number 3, one of the movie's stars couldn't celebrate the movie's release. So in SleepWalkers, American actor Ryan Krause played Charles, the vampiric shape-shifting son and co-antagonist. When SleepWalkers came out, Krause was unable to attend the movie's premiere or be a part of any of the celebrations, as he was put in Orange County Jail for unpaid parking tickets. Yep, he spent the movie's premiere in the slammer. Oh man, that has gotta suck. I mean, imagine that. You're the star of a big Hollywood movie, and yet when it comes out, you're thrown in the slammer over parking tickets. Yeah, parking tickets. Krause would do a 45-day jail term and gave another prisoner his lunch in return for keeping quiet about the inmate being the star of the latest Stephen King movie. So in SleepWalkers, Krause may have played a supernatural being with mystical powers. He was still no match for parking tickets. Yep, I'm telling you, those parking tickets are really going to screw you. Number 2, proposed sequel. Despite the fact that SleepWalkers ends pretty conclusively, with the last 2 remaining ancient shape-shifting beings being destroyed, and thus bringing an end to their species, SleepWalkers director Mick Garris claimed that Stephen King's wife Tabitha had written an early treatment for a sequel, which evidently got abandoned. The only information offered about the proposed sequel is that it was going to revolve around a women's basketball team. Man, why did this sequel never happen? I totally would have been up for SleepWalkers 2, to see what further madness we could have been in for. Yeah, the first movie wraps everything up, but it's not exactly a movie that's grounded in reality. I'm sure some explanation could have been given. Hey, if we can get a Salem's Lot 2, Carrie 2, and Pet Sematary 2, then surely someone somewhere could have given us a SleepWalkers 2. It's not too late. Listen to me, Hollywood. SleepWalkers 2. Make it happen. And keep the cheesiness while you're at it. Number 1. Sleepwalking to your local movie theatre. SleepWalkers was released in April 1992 and opened up in the number 1 spot, but would subsequently only go on to make $30.5 million at the box office, on a $15 million budget. So it did double its money, but it wasn't exactly a knockout success either. However, in comes the critics with their high standards who hated the movie. The Radio Times claimed that the script was pathetic and underdeveloped. Some felt that the movie starts strong but then falls apart as the movie goes on. And SleepWalkers currently has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 33%. It has, however, gone on to become a cult movie. A guilty pleasure where people know that by design it's a bad movie but still have lots of fun with it, and appreciate its playful, cheesy nature. Something I've noticed is that it's gained popularity in modern years thanks to social media platforms like YouTube, with people bringing up this movie and talking about how wildly insane it is, which has given it something of a word-of-mouth popularity, with people going to watch SleepWalkers for themselves to see just how truly insane it is. I don't think it was meant to be a movie taken too seriously. I think that King went out to make a movie that has all the traits of cheesy splatter movies of the 80s. It's like he went out to make a ridiculous over-the-top movie but was like, hey, let's have fun with this. Had it come out during the 80s at the time of the Nightmares on Elm Streets, the Friday the 13th, the Child's Plays, and the Evil Deads, then it probably would have been better received. But by the 90s, horror movies were starting to take a more serious turn. I think it's a fun, over-the-top popcorn movie. It's a movie that you're meant to laugh with as opposed to laugh at. Its over-the-top violence and storytelling is a sure treat for all lovers of guilty pleasure cinema. It may be a movie's sin to like this movie, but that's a sin I'm willing to break. So if you're a lover of cheesy horror movies, then check out SleepWalkers. You're in for one hell of an over-the-top bumpy ride. The vital thing is to remember is that it's not meant to be taken too seriously, so just have fun with it. Anyway, I'm Minty, and remember, always keep a corn cob with you, as you never know when you might need it for self-defense. See ya!